Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington. My name is Maria Nielsen. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm your worship associate this morning. Whether you're here every Sunday, here once in a while, or here for the first time, we're glad you're with us. If you're visiting or feeling newish to the congregation, a special welcome to you. A few announcements to invite us all into the spirit of community. Today, after the service, please join us, as always, in the social hall for coffee and conversation. Also today, after the service, will be coffee with Reverend Israel in Reverend Israel's office for anyone who is curious about who we are and what we're all about. Today, also, at 2 p.m., is the memorial service for our beloved and longtime member, Annabelle Kaner. And tonight is the annual Interfaith Thanksgiving service here in Huntington at 7 p.m. in the Congregational Church. So today is a busy day for all of us. Tomorrow night, we'll be hosting a labyrinth walk here. And as always, you can find information on these events and other information in our weekly fellowship flash, which is mailed every Thursday. The recent fellowship flash also includes information on a community food drive on Thursday, a sound bath meditation on Saturday, and an interfaith vigil of prayer, song, and art next Sunday afternoon. And a word especially to those here with little folks this morning: noise, wiggles, dropped crayons, and whispered questions all belong here this morning. This is an all-ages space today. We gather this morning on land long tended and loved by the Matinecock people and other indigenous nations of this island, whose presence and wisdom continue even when our history books forget to mention them. Some of us come today in full anticipation and warmth. Some of us are anxious about family, money, or empty chairs. If your heart feels crowded this morning, if you are holding grief and gratitude, anger and relief, worry and joy all at once, know this: nothing is wrong with you. You're simply paying attention. We know that in this very room, there are people excited for the upcoming holiday, people who are dreading it, and people who are just trying to make it through. This morning, we're not here to pretend that everything is fine. We're not here to rehearse the simple story of a friendly meal and polite gratitude. We're here to be honest and kind with one another and to practice what it might look like to live as if there could be enough for all of us. And now I invite us all to take a shared breath together. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice your body in this room, and let yourself arrive. I invite Amy Olander to come forward and light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist movement. Amy, of course, is one of our esteemed pumpkin queens. We light our chalice to mark this time as sacred, not in the sense of separate from real life, but in the sense of this is where we tell the truth and listen for what is calling us. These words are adapted from the Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving Address. Haudenosaunee means people of the Longhouse and refers to the nations of the Iroquois Confederacy, the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and Tuscarora. We give thanks to our Mother the Earth, who gives us everything we need for life. She holds us up as we live upon her. We give thanks to the waters, to the plants that feed and heal us, to the animals who share this world with us, to the winds that bring the seasons, to the sun that gives warmth and light, and to all the teachers in our lives. For all of these gifts, we bring our minds and hearts together as one as we gather in gratitude and truth today.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am Reverend Israel Buffardi. I use he, him for pronouns, and I'm the minister of this congregation, and it's a joy to be here with you all this morning and see so many faces here, so many generations here this morning. Today, we are practicing a different story, perhaps, than the one that has been told over and over again. One where nothing and no one is a throwaway, and where there can be enough, where we know there is enough, when we live like we truly belong to one another. To help us do that, we're going to play with two images today, compost and bread. And I invite us this morning to see compost as what happens when we refuse to believe that mess and leftovers are useless. Compost says this: this is not the end of the story, this mess. What seems broken or spoiled can become rich soil for something new to grow in. And bread is what happens when we take what the earth gives us and our labor and our love and creativity and turn it into something that can feed people. I see that some of you have put your bread on the table already, and there will be an invitation in just a moment to do that. And it is really wonderful to see how community starts to set the table, even before you've been asked or invited or told what to do, and you just know instinctually. Some of you may have brought bread or bread-ish things from home, and some of you might not have known that we were doing this, and that's fine, by the way. Homemade loaves, maybe supermarket loaves, tortillas maybe even, or muffins, whatever enough looks like in your home, in your kitchen. So during our opening hymn, if you brought something and it is not on the table yet, I invite you to bring it forward and to place it on the table. Or even if you like to come and look at what is on the table. You don't need to explain it, or explain yourself in this community. Just bring it. Bring yourself and set it down on our table. And let it become part of this community, part of our table of enough for this morning. Let it be enough. And again, if you didn't bring anything, you are absolutely part of this. Your presence, your voice, your hunger, all of our hunger for a more just and loving world all belong at this table too. And later, at coffee hour, after the service, we'll eat from the table. And let the sharing of food be one way that we practice enough for all and not just talk about it. So for now, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing our opening hymn, which is a rewrite of the one that's in our hymnal. And the reasons why could be a sermon in and of themselves. But for now, let's let these new words be enough. They're on the screen,
Just as a point of reference, the same melody is Blue Boat Cap, so we all know.
these new words are, are a response to some, I would say, critiques of the words that are in our hymnal that have come from some indigenous peoples. And this was my recognition of that in an attempt to turn an old story into a newer story. And we're going to also hear as well about some other ways that we turn old things into new things. Francis is going to tell us about compost today.
Can all the children join me? I have a book here, a wonderful book called Compost Stew. If you could sit over here and you'll be able to see the book. Good morning, all of you. I'm Frances Whittlesey. Good morning. Now, are you all looking forward to Thanksgiving? I know I am. I particularly love the food, and I particularly like sausage and apple stuffing and cranberry sauce. What are some of your favorite dishes that you make? Anyone want to tell me?
I like the turkey that my aunt makes. It's good.
Wonderful. Anybody else want to tell me?
I like that thing with marshmallows in it. Like
The marshmallows?
yeah, I like this thing that.
With the yams? With the marshmallows?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
I like macaroni and cheese.
Mac and cheese, always a favorite. Well, that's great. It's here. So this morning, I want to give you a recipe for something else you can make on Thanksgiving, and it's called compost stew. Now, I'm going to give you that recipe, but before I do, I want to talk for a moment about recycling. Now, you all know about recycling. That's when we separate things like glass and bottles and paper from the regular garbage, and we put it in those blue bins, right? But did you know that Mother Nature recycles? In fact, Mother Nature recycles everything that grows out of the earth and uses it and reuses it over and over again. But here's the thing. Some people throw Mother Nature's things in the garbage. But here's a secret. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be using Mother Nature's things to make compost stew. So now I'm going to give you that recipe, and it's in this wonderful book called, of all things, Compost Stew. And it's written by Mary McKenna Siddles and illustrated by Ashley Wolf. And it's a recipe book. So I'm going to give you the recipe. Environmental chefs, here's a recipe for you to fix from scratch, to mix a batch of compost stew. Ingredients: apple cores, bananas bruised, coffee grounds with filters used, dirt clods crumbled, eggshells crushed, fruit pulp left behind, all mushed, grass clippings, would you believe hair snippings, and an insect or two. Just add to the pot and let it all rot into compost stew. Save jack-o'-lanterns. We got a few of those around right now, right? Plenty of those. Kitchen scraps, even laundry lint from dryer traps. Mulch removed from garden beds, nutshells, oatmeal, paper shreds. Quarry dust. Now, we don't have any quarries around here, so pretty much not that. But rye bread crust and seaweed strands. A few, we get those off the beach. Just add to the pot and let it all rot into compost stew. Take tea bags plucked from long, hot swimmings. Underbrush prunings, vegetable trimmings. Wiggly worms with compost cravings. Christmas tree needles, yellow pine shavings. And zinnia heads from flower breads whose blooming days are through. Just add to the pot and let it all rot into compost stew. Now moisten, toss lightly, cover, let brew, and when the cooking is complete, Mother Earth will have a treat, dark and crumbly, rich and sweet. Now open the pot, and what have you got? Can we say it together? Compost stew. Yes? So, I'm hoping that you will talk to your parents about adding this dish to your Thanksgiving menu. But I know you can't do it alone, so if they want to find out how to do it, get more information, I'll be in the social hall after the service to answer any more questions. Thank you so much.
We arrive here from our many places with our many stories, the many things we carry, the many stories, that we might wish to turn into something new. Whatever you carry here this morning, whatever you bring here this morning with you on your heart is part of this community, is needed here. This is the time of the service that we call Moments of the Heart. And it is the space where we bring what we are carrying and put it into the light. Our joys, our sorrows, our griefs, our worries, and our gratitude, trusting that we don't have to hold any of this alone. When you came here, you received a card that you could write something down on if you'd like us to share it. And so I invite you to think about what is on your heart today if you wish to share something. Maybe it's something or someone you're grateful for, a part of your story, something you are worried about, a loss you're carrying, or a place in the world that's on your heart. And if you'd rather not write anything at all, that is completely fine. You can simply come up here and light a candle and know that you are seen and held. When the music plays, you can come up and you can bring those cards forward. And if you still need one, our pastoral associate, Mary Bly, is here with cards and here to receive what you bring up. Those moments, those things on your heart. It's so good to be in community and be reminded of all the abundance of the world, and also the places where we are called to offer care and concern and comfort to those who need it. We're holding in our hearts all of these joys and sorrows and hopes and dreams this morning, and reminders of microbes. It says, here is to the microbes, the small things that we cannot see that make life possible. Thankful for the bountiful fish in the sea. And we're reminded as well of those who need our concern. I got a separate message from Connie Rinaldi, whose grandmother passed away, who asked for the concern of this community and wanted everyone to know. We have one card here that says, "Love and thoughts to my husband and family while we remember Mom." We have a reminder, too, that we also need to think beyond composting and think in terms of the highest and best use of food produced for human consumption. A reminder that we can always do better. Someone asking for a prayer for their brother who has a recurrence of leukemia. Someone is thinking of their mother, Helen, Aunt Janet, and Uncle Buddy. I love you. I miss you. And we're reminded of what happens right here in our community for our disappeared neighbors and their vulnerable loved ones. And a reminder that at 3 p.m. today at St. Hugh's Roman Catholic Church, there will be an action, a vigil, a prayer from local clergy for those who have disappeared in this community and many, many others. And we end with this. Amy and Lars Olander are overjoyed to share that they are now grandparents. Cameron Marie James was born on November 13th, and parents Emily and Cody are all doing well. For all of these things that we carry, for all of the joys that lift us up, that we bring, that we see echoed here, and for all of the sorrows that break our hearts, and for the questions and concerns that sit only in the silence of our hearts, that words cannot express, for all that you bring. Let's hold those things in the silence, and let's be reminded by this table of delicious-looking food that there is enough. There is enough. There is enough. May the bounty of this earth and the comfort of community remind us of what a gift it is to be alive on this day. Let us sing Spirit of Life. I'm glad to have a reminder in these cards as well of that stories, oversimplified stories sometimes, need to be teased out and fully explained. I don't know anyone who's in school right now brought home any worksheets in the last few weeks about Thanksgiving. Maybe some of the kids around might find this familiar, but my kid brought home from school last week, a worksheet with little pilgrim figures on it, smiling. Something that could have been taken straight out of a history textbook for me. Little pilgrim figures smiling, and I use this term not lightly to make Indians. A harmful depiction of indigenous peoples. And a blank line that just said, "What are you thankful for?" No mention of the true story. No mention of what happened next. No mention of the beauty that was already here and what there was to be thankful for what was already here. You might know this story whether or not you saw the workbook that came home. Most of us learned it, I think. Our culture certainly teaches it. It says that the pilgrims came and it was hard. And then the indigenous peoples helped and everyone had a feast, and that is the end. It could be the end of the story. In grown-up language, though, I'd call that a myth. And perhaps in another way, I'd just say it's the pretend version of the truth that leaves out the hard parts. No mention of land broken or treaties, land taken, or treaties broken. No mention of whole nations, languages, ceremonies pushed aside to make room for this cheerful picture. And no mention that indigenous peoples are still here now, still speaking their languages, still protecting water and land, even though the culture is not listening, still raising and loving kids. That pretend story isn't just incomplete, it keeps us from seeing where we actually are. But every year in Plymouth, as some of you might know, indigenous peoples gather for what's called the National Day of Mourning. They stand on a cold, beautiful, windy hill and tell truths that never made it into some of these workbooks. They name the violence and they name their survival. So here we are this morning. Some of us carrying images from the news we wish we could unsee, knowing exactly where we are. Some of us are bone tired from caregiving and worrying and grieving. Some of us maybe are honestly just ready for a little bit of stuffing and pie, and that's okay too. You getting this feedback? Okay. And into all of that, the wider culture and workbooks that come through or commercials on the TV say Happy Thanksgiving and ask us to talk about what we're grateful for and smile nicely for pictures. Not that there's anything wrong with being grateful for the abundance of life for each other. But for others, it might feel a little off to hear this story. It might feel like the contrast is turned up too high. Tables overflowing with food while the line at the local food pantry stretches out the door. A holiday about sharing on land that was never freely given and that can never be owned truly by anyone. If your heart feels twisted and this feels wrong, you're not alone. I'm still hearing it, are you? Okay. The question is not, let's say, should we be grateful or not? The question is, which story of gratitude are we going to live in? Should we live in? Must we live in? The one that says everything is fine, don't look too closely, or the one that says this world is complicated and beautiful and broken, yes, and our job is to tell the truth and to share what we have. That's where compost comes in, actually. We heard compost stew earlier with banana peels, coffee grounds, eggshells, old leaves, all the stuff that we might throw away, piled together, turned and turned and turned and worked by hands in the sun and heat and those microbes until it becomes dark, rich soil. Compost is what we do when we refuse to believe that anything or anyone is just trash. And for us spiritually, compost is what we do with the lies that we were taught about history or about ourselves. The habits we picked up from a culture that says, be perfect, look fine, don't talk about hard things. The guilt and the fear that can settle in, too, when we notice how much is wrong and how it can make us freeze and not be sure what to do. We can't pretend those things didn't happen. That's denial. And we also can't sit in them forever and call it being aware. That would just be despair. And so maybe compost for us this morning can be like a messy middle way, a stinky, messy middle way. We name the harm, and then we say, I will not let this freeze me. I'm going to let this change me. I'm going to change it. I'm going to let this feed something better, something new, something more people. I have one thought for you right now. If you're comfortable and you want to try this, hold out your hands in front of you like you're holding something heavy, something that you don't know what to do with. Maybe it's an old story that hurts, a lie you learned, a feeling that's been weighing you down, and feel the weight of it just for a second. And now slowly, when you're ready, if you're ready, turn your hands over and let it fall into the compost pile, back into the earth. And brush your palms. Brush it off. That's one motion for compost. From clinging, from weighing down, to releasing, from burden to soil, to newness, to growth, to transformation. You don't have to have it all figured out to do that when we put it in the compost pile. We don't have to know what we're going to do with it just yet, but we know that we need something to change. And the other image this morning that we're working with is bread and bread-like things, food that comes from the earth, worked by human hands. Bread on paper is super simple. Flour, water, salt, yeast farts, time, heat. But I think it's also something close to magic. Grain, ancient grain that learned to be flour, but maybe that was distorted a little bit. But also rain and sun soaking into the fields, hands planting and harvesting and milling, these same hands. And more hands mixing and kneading, doing hard work. And then someone watching and pulling a loaf out of the oven at exactly the right moment. But for me, bread is not just an idea or a concept. It lives deeply in my memory and my body because it has fed me my whole life. You may have heard, I've talked about my grandparents before, and I'm going to talk about them one more time today. I lived with my Italian grandparents who grew up poor and resourceful in the shadow of economic depression. And there was this box of stale bread in the kitchen. Every last hard, dried out slice went in there. Edible food never went in the trash. But more importantly, at the cauldron on the stove, those scraps became magic. My grandma would tear those scraps of bread or grate them or just toss them into a pot of stewing tomatoes and garlic, and maybe some basil if it was the summer and the garden was showing off. And also this absurdly plentiful zucchini from a stubborn patch of dirt in the backyard that refused to believe in the concept of urban decay. Sometimes there were scruffy dandelion greens, weeds really, that had muscled up through soil that had seen more industry than care, and often there were eggs that were whisked in at the end. Now, If you wrote this recipe in a nice cookbook today, someone would certainly call it cucina povera or papa al pomodoro, and give it a beautiful name. My grandma did not call it that. She simply said, what we have. And then she pinched my cheek with a smile and she said, Manj, eat. More recently, I remember a knock at my door after our first child was born during the strangeness of the early pandemic. A neighbor who did not stay or push their way into our door, who just left some soup on the porch and a tray of the best brownies I have ever eaten. And without any words at all, in that smile and in that care and that food, said, you do not have to shop or cook tonight. You are loved. You are not alone. So when I look at a table of bread like this one, I don't see something neutral. I don't see just bread. I see survival and embarrassment and pride and resilience. I see the Grow to Give garden out back, where compost and time and care quietly turn into carrots and greens and strawberries that end up in boxes for people we might never meet. But people who might just for one meal feel a little more seen and a little less scared. This idea, this conception of bread is what happens when we take what the earth offers and we add our labor and our creativity and we say, this is for sharing. So if Compost asks, what will we do with the wreckage of the stories? How will we transform those stories? Bread reminds us, or asks of us, what will we do with what we have? And those are not abstract questions. So maybe this week they can sound like this. At our tables, can we tell one truer story along with the gratitude, along with the thanks? Can we invite someone who otherwise might be alone? Or in our giving, can we match or try to match some of what we spend on our own feast with a gift to a food pantry, or to Indigenous-led work, or to that box out over by the coat closet? If you don't know what it is, it's collecting food. Or in our habits, can we actually compost our scraps or try to? Can we find some worms outside and toss them in a bin with our scraps and some leaves? Can we help in the Grow to Give garden when the season starts or whenever the sign-up starts? Everything needed to sustain life is here already. Only if we live as if we actually truly belong to each other. Gratitude by itself will not save us. But gratitude that tells the truth about the past, that lets harmful stories break down into better soil, into something new, and that flows into the sharing of real bread with real people or real soup with real people, might move us closer to a world that is worth passing on. And as we look at this table of bread, and we prepare to head out towards sharing it during coffee hour, I invite you to tell each other your stories of the bread, what it means to you, or why you brought it. But may we also remind ourselves in that act that we are not just lucky to have enough. We are responsible for how that enough is shared and used.
As we turn now to our morning offering, we have a chance to practice what we've been talking about this morning, that what we have is meant to be shared. Each month, our fellowship shares half of our offering with a partner through our Beyond These Walls program. This month, we continue to share our plate with family diversity projects, whose work lifts up the beauty and truth of many kinds of families, widening the circle of who is seen and honored. The portion of today's offering that stays here at UUFH supports the work of this community, like the Grow to Give garden and the very practical work of keeping this place open and alive. If you prefer to give electronically, you'll find information on screen. Whatever you're able to give today, money, attention, or simple presence, is received with gratitude and helps this congregation keep choosing a story of enough for all. The morning offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you.
I want to send you out today with a Thanksgiving blessing that you can take home, or that you can take home in your hearts. And I want to start by saying that I offer for you this blessing of the part in you, or you could think of it in terms, not in terms of a blessing if that is not your language, but you could just say speaking well of, honoring the part in you that is still hungry. Not just the part that is only grateful, but hungry, still hungry. Hungry for justice, for more justice, for rest, for honest stories, for real connection, for a world that makes more sense than this one does. May that hunger never be shamed or numbed, but fed with good work, real laughter, shared breath, and small acts of courage. And so as I extinguish our flame for the morning, I remind us that we do not extinguish the fire in us that knows that things must be different, nor the quiet knowing that we belong to one another, and we are enough. And to take us out, instead of sitting and hearing a prelude, a postlude, we'll sing to remind ourselves that we are building a new way. Let's rise in body or in spirit to sing this sending off song together.